And today we have a very interesting and important session which is devoted to the landscape and greenery and modern cities. We've been living in new cities for a while, in so-called post-industrial cities, cities where the need of a human being and his or her life is at the forefront. It's human-centric cities, if you may, as we understand them now. And this process is already inevitable and irreversible. However, landscape, parks, greeneries, mini parks, forests, big green pieces in cities is really important and relevant for us. We truly believe that those plantings, apart from the beauty, would give to the city some additional health care effect. They remove CO2, they provide cleaner cities, and in such Russian cities as Chelyabinsk and Norilsk could even save the city from the anti-anthropogenic impact. So this is an important issue. Besides, it is also thought that the human are striving for nature, which we call today a biophilia, which is also an important phenomenon. It's very important to approach to the green development of the city as to a certain integral entity. We call it a green carcass, a green structure of the city, when we consider this whole structure as a whole system, as an integral part. We will discuss it, and during pandemic, where people have more time and more free time, or not occupied time, they have more opportunity to spend this time somewhere separate from others, isolated from others. Those big green spaces would provide more solitude, which would provide better health care, not only physically but mentally, and this is also very important. I'd like to introduce our distinguished speakers, whom we invited today. Timothy Bitley, founder and executive director of Biophilic Cities. Adrian Goitze, landscape architect, founder, Western Urban Design and Landscape Architecture Bureau. Adam White, director of Davis White, former president of the Landscape Institute. Yekaterina Samukhina, head of the Design Department, Institute for Environmental Research and Design. And Yekaterina Goldberg, founder of Orchestra Design Bureau. These are very interesting people, extremely interesting people, who are subject matter expert in the areas which I outlined just a few moments ago. We have limited time today, dear ladies and gentlemen, and we have clear timing today. We have 7 minutes for each presenter and about 2 to 3 minutes for questions and answers, if we have enough time for that. And let's begin our work today. Once again, good afternoon. And I'm speaking first to Timothy Bitley. You are author of around 15 or even more books on the problem which we call biophilia. It's a new term for me, at least, but it is quite exact and precise. Such books as Green Urbanism, leaning from European cities native to, and also already translated into Russian, Biophilic Cities. You are heading the Biophilic Cities project in the Virginia University, and this term is quite new for many people. Could you tell us more? What are Biophilic Cities? Tell us about the new movement which you founded and are heading, its past, present, and future. Please, you have the floor.
ahead and show the slides, and hopefully you can see them. And there actually is a bit of some definitions and some information to answer your question about what biophilia is and what biophilic planning and design is all about. So yes, thank you for that introduction. As you were saying, we have started something called the Biophilic Cities Project. That has now become a global network of cities. And I have probably too many slides. I'm going to go very fast just to give you a quick sense of what this vision is about. So I am an urban planner, and we talk a lot about the need for dense, compact cities if we're going to reduce our carbon emissions and really address climate change and sustainability. So compactness and density that lets us walk and bicycle and all these things that are really important. But can we have that dense, compact city and also contact with the natural world? Well, we say, yes, you can, and you must, in fact, have it all together. So it is very much based on this idea of biophilia. Here is one definition in English from E.O. Wilson, Ed Wilson, who is a professor at Harvard. He's not the first person to have used the word biophilia, but he's really the one who has coined it in the way that we think of it, that humans have co-evolved with nature, with the natural world, that we need that contact with nature. It's not something optional. It's absolutely essential to leading a happy, healthy, meaningful life. And it can't just be those things that we enjoy on a holiday or a vacation once or twice a year. It has to be all around us all the time. There is a great deal of evidence about the power of nature, and I don't have much time to go into that, but I think just intuitively, most of us realize that the way nature reaches us, what are the things that we're drawn to? And they're the things on the screen. They are living things. They are butterflies and birds and trees and flowers and water. And these are all things that we know, and we see this emerging evidence has such power, such important effects on us. So here's one recent study in bioscience showing the relationship between greener, more natureful neighborhoods and the reduction of things like depression, anxiety, stress. That those things will go down when we have more nature. Almost every week, it seems, we have a new study. It's hard to summarize the research. All of the things on the right side of the screen are ways in which nature positively influences our lives and our health. Again, depression, anxiety go down in the presence of nature. Nature improves our mood. Even things like crime and gun violence. Studies here in the US show that greener neighborhoods lead to reduced levels of crime. But even things like generosity, the ability to be cooperative, to think creatively. These are all things now that are being shown to be enhanced when we have nature all around us. For us in the Biophilic Cities network, we talk a lot about the concept of flourishing, which captures all of these things. It's mental health, it's physical health, but it's a meaningful life as well. So that's the basic premise. And as the introduction suggested, this time of pandemic has been terrible. But if there is a silver lining, it is that it's shown most of us, many of us, how important nature is in our lives, and what a balm, a salve, a saving grace, if you will. And we've looked to that nature. We've listened for birds, and we've seen and experienced that nature maybe in ways that we didn't before the pandemic. Here are a couple of slides from partner cities. On the left is Portland, Oregon. Wonderful park called Forest Park. And so here in this city, they have designed one-way walking loops so that more and more people can enjoy this particular park during this period of high demand during the pandemic. So we're trying to capture as many stories as we can about the ways that cities are adapting in real time to make that nature more accessible. We also believe that there are many other goals that can be accomplished by having nature in cities. Of course, obviously many ecological services, just about anything that you can do to make a city Biophilic or natureful will also make it more resilient. And these are images from Rotterdam, where they're dealing with water. Installing a green roof helps to cool that building, helps to retain stormwater, also integrates, also inserts some element of nature into the city. So there is a movement, global movement, and sometimes we talk about biophilic design, which tends to focus at the building level. We believe a biophilic city is a city full of biophilic buildings, but like this one, this is one under construction in Toronto, a wonderful project called Designers Walk, several hundred trees and a vertical forest. But we think that a biophilic city has to be more than simply a city of biophilic buildings. It has to be all of those spaces beyond the building, between the buildings, from the roof or the room, all the way to the region or the bioregion, and all of those rooms and all those spaces in between. They are cities that connect us to nature, to the natural world, all those spaces again, so that it's a city that isn't just a place that has parts of nature, or places where you can enjoy nature, like a park. It's really this idea of connecting more broadly to the natural world. It's also about biodiversity conservation. It's also about coexistence with the nature that exists. We believe that a biophilic city is one that makes room, makes space for many other forms of life. This is the vision at the heart of it. This is an image from Singapore. And Singapore's actually changed their motto from Singapore, a garden city, to Singapore, a city in a garden. And more recently, they've changed it now, or changing it to this vision of a city in nature. So again, we want to be in cities that don't just have parks, but we want to think of the city as a park, as a forest, as a garden, or as really as a natural system. We want to be immersed in that nature. So it is multi-scaled. Again, everything from building, neighborhood, city, region, and all of the integration of those scales, so that green rooftop connects to multiple levels of forest canopy that connect to the nature at ground level. It's an integrative whole of city approach. It is one that understands nature can be found and must be found in all the spaces of a city, from indoor spaces to outdoor spaces. It's one that moves again from an idea of discrete nature to connections and natural systems and pathways. This is a slide from Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is a city that's joined our network, just showing that this vision is one that reinterprets what we see in the city. So that bridge is not necessarily understood as a place of nature, but it could be a nesting site for a peregrine falcon. We look at the city in a different way when we look at it through the lens of biophilia. So we have a network, biophilic-cities.org. I'm at the end of my time. Really quick introduction. I'm just going to flip through the rest of the slides. This is Mayor Peduto receiving the certificate as the city of Pittsburgh's joining the network. We have 24 cities in the network now. It's growing, gaining traction. Please take a look at our webpage. So many different things that cities are doing, so many different ways they're integrating nature, from sidewalk gardens, daylighting streams. Vitoria-Gasteiz, the capital of the Basque Country, is in our network. The idea of taking sterile water features in cities and converting them into wonderful biodiverse wetlands like this one in Perth, Western Australia. We have a lot of films on our website about some of these stories. The idea of just biophilia, social equity in nature, Edmonton, Canada, and their wonderful ecological network that everything they're doing is designing in ways that allow the passage of wildlife through the city. Beginning, this is Curitibat, Costa Rica, giving citizenship to birds. And then this is my last.
So, sorry, Timothy, unfortunately we are out of time. It was really interesting. As far as I understand, one of the most important ideas is that we are not greening the city. We make the city and its landscape a single, unified system, and the city should be submerged in the green system other than the other way around. This is a next step of the approach to the comfortable life. It's a former garden city, but at the level of new high-tech technologies. And now, next, I'd like to turn to Adam White. We understand that Great Britain and British cities, first and foremost London, has always been a very green city at all times. It was always the capital of gardens, despite its huge size and huge influence all over the world. As far as I understand, now in the national scale, there are two very important, exciting initiatives. This is the strategy of green belts development in the Great Britain and the Northern Forest Plan. These initiatives are very interesting. As far as I understand, around big cities, green belts are built, are created, which, apart from healthier landscape of the city, of the total settlement around the big city, would also prevent it from sprawling, which is very important. In the case of Moscow, it is very relevant. It's very relevant development problem of sprawling this urban tissue everywhere with no limits. And the second very ambitious project is the Northern Forest, when trees are being planted from one seashore to another seashore, which is a huge task. Adam, please tell us more about the activities of your Landscape Institute and relevant initiatives which your institute is obviously implementing in the Great Britain and in London especially. Tell us, please, more about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. Yes, I'm going to share my screen now and give you a little bit of an insight to what's happening in the in the United Kingdom. Excuse me. So yes, I'm Adam White. I'm the past president of the Landscape Institute, which is the professional body in the UK for landscape architects and landscape professionals. My day job, I am a landscape architect. I've got my own practice here in London. And we established that about 10 years ago, designed specifically to create accessible and inclusive public spaces with nature right at their core. We focus a lot around young people and children. And this is why it's tied in with what you've just been talking about. New developments is about ensuring that we take a landscape-led approach to them. And that's starting to happen across the new UK with some great initiatives. What's really important, though, is understanding why we want nature to be at the core of what we do. And so much of the work of my practice and many other practices is about having every piece of our work underpinned. And these three books are just a couple that you can get hold of. One by Florence Williams, a friend of mine, talks about how nature can make us happier, healthier, and more creative. And Richard Lou's, I'm sure many of you will have seen that, Last Child in the Woods. He talks about a thing called nature deficit disorder. And this is the idea that human beings, especially children, are spending less time outdoors, and as a result, it's having an effect on their behavior. It's not a medical condition, it probably should be. Florence, in her book, she talks about the 3-day effect of spending time outdoors and how it's good for us. And she also references a thing called the nature pyramid. Now, this is really useful, and I'll provide these slides so anybody watching today can have a look at it in more detail. But basically, it's about doses of nature, from a daily dose, a micro dose that might be a plant on your windowsill in your office, or annual visits to wilderness and how you can connect with nature and get away from technology. Now, this pyramid talks about recommendations of duration, but it also talks about locations as well. And this is what underpinned the work I did last year with somebody quite famous globally, I think, and that is not my business partner, Andre, it is Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Cambridge. She saw the work we were doing and said, how do we promote this? How do we encourage society and politicians and decision makers to put a landscape and nature first before anything. And together we designed 4 gardens, the Back to Nature gardens, and the Duchess was involved. People wonder how much involvement she had. Well, from inception to completion, she did concept designs with us through to detailed design, including site visits to choose plants and materials, and really got involved, including the build of these 4 public gardens. And it was really important, and it made a huge difference when you had somebody that doors open when you know that you're working with a member of the royal family. And there's been a real shift in the UK. There's been this movement to rewilding our public spaces and not manicured landscapes as we've had for many years. And it does help when she's got quite a famous family, including her grandmother-in-law who came along and showed that spending time outdoors is essential for all our health and well-being. And there's a television presenter in the UK. I'm going to talk about him in a moment. His name's David Attenborough. And he says, if children don't grow up understanding nature, they won't appreciate it. And if they don't appreciate it, they won't protect it. And if they don't protect it, who will? And that ties in with the work and the global climate strike movement led by Greta Thunberg, raising awareness. And in the UK, we had a climate crisis declaration, as many people did. And it's funny how COVID-19 has forced our hand, and these lockdown restrictions have changed behaviour like never before. Working from home, using Zoom, not travelling to every meeting, children growing plants for the first time and putting the car to one side and getting on a bicycle and travelling and spending more time outdoors. I say technology is a big part of it, and it is in the UK. We launched a thing called LI Campus. And if anyone's interested in it, you can find it on the internet. It's a bit like the Netflix for the landscape profession. Over 300 hours of seminars and talks by people as we're seeing today. You can catch up on that. It's a great facility for everybody. I mentioned the climate action plan that we were working on last year. So important for all of us. We've got under a decade now to get global warming down, and nature is a huge part of it, and the next generation are too. And hand in hand in that is biodiversity loss. We've got 57% of things about to become extinct on the planet right now are plants, yet only 4% of conservation funding goes into saving it, which is why I'm very, very passionate about promoting the value of nature and plants. If you'd like a copy of that publication, again, I can send you all a link to it. So I believe I'm a designer, but from being a design champion, we need to become sustainability superheroes. Every single person watching now at home and at work can make a difference. So I'm going to show you here just some slides of how at Davis White, my practice, we've changed the way we're working. Using Zoom, embracing technology, presenting designs to people, and not even turning up at the actual school. And then when restrictions in the UK allowed, we've had COVID-safe workshops again. Wonderful to get people connected. These are urban spaces, urban pocket parks. This is the sort of space, this is in Ealing in West London. This is how it was transformed, increasing biodiversity value, but also property value as well. Another example here, these terrible spaces with these springy things and using nature as the driving force behind them. So where are we going next year, 2021? We've just launched the Green Recovery. This is a paper that explores how we can restart the economy using green as a way forwards, looking at natural capital approaches, looking at green skills, digital and data. There's huge support across the UK for this. We cannot respond as business for usual. This is a unique situation. And this project is a very unique project. This is the Blossom Project in the Olympic Park. No one has seen this. This will be the COVID Memorial Garden that myself and my colleague have designed. And it will be a place where people can go and spend time. I'm just going to finish now on a thing called the High Streets Task Force. This is about how we're starting to bring green into our urban areas and our high streets to encourage people to revisit them once the lockdown is lifted. I mentioned this gentleman earlier. Hopefully many of you will have seen Sir David Attenborough. He's a huge star in the UK, and I know he is a global one. We made him an honorary fellow and gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award last year. This is an award that's just been launched, the David Attenborough Award for Biodiversity. This is Cater Park in Kidbrooke Village, just outside London. It was a regular amenity green space, and now it has been driven by nature and biodiversity. If you want to have a look at that online, I really advise you to do so. This is showing what's possible in any urban environment. Now, Netflix showed this film last month. You may have seen it. It's the David Attenborough film, A Life on Our Planet. It's his witness statement. He's got a book out, or you can't see it because of the green screen, but we're showing this next Thursday at 8:30 your time in Moscow, 5:30 UK time. It's free. You can find it on Eventbrite, and it's going to be streamed. It's on our social media channels, at Talk Landscape for the Twitter handle. And I'd encourage you, if you've not watched this film, please try and tune in and watch it. It captures everything we're talking about today. And it's essential, not just us, but our family and friends watch this film as well. Anyway, I've gone over a minute. Thank you for your time. And I look forward to hearing from the other speakers. Thank you. Oh, got to stop sharing.
Спасибо, очень интересно.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting. We will definitely watch this lecture, this film. And now we're coming back to Russia and the city of Kazan. And I address Ekaterina Goldberg. I know that in Kazan you have a special project named Orchestra. And this project was really a large one, and they managed to renovate the territory around the Kazanka River. I know the city quite well. There is a big river, Volga, but the Kazanka is another one joining the Volga. Kazanka goes through the whole city, and this is probably the main waterway for Kazan city. Until recently, a lot of development was going on. New sand was added, and constantly new lands for building new houses. These development processes were rather wild. They were not structured and organized. They were not good for nature. But at the same time, there is a lot of land where 12 parks are planned. This was done by design architects. The project is rather ambitious, and the Republic administration participates. A number of development projects have been abandoned if they were on the way of this development. This is actually one of the largest, the most ambitious projects for Kazan, for Russia in general. And I think that this project can be really implemented with success because the administration in Kazan is very proactive. You have 7 or probably 8 minutes of allocated time.
Да, что делать? Да, ждем презентацию.
We are waiting for the presentation. Good day, can you hear me? Great. I'm happy to know that one of the most ambitious land redevelopment project is developed, is related to the river. I think it's a real breakthrough for Russia because lots of projects were linked with development, were focused on development. of housing. This project started 2 years ago. This is a very detailed process, and the municipality executive branch of Kazan is responsible for it. Natalia Fishman-Bekmambetova, who is responsible for parks in Tatarstan Republic in general. And this project has been approved and adopted by the President of the Republic. Our goal is to create the largest ecosystem of riverside parks. We combine different territories from Volga to the Blue Lakes. We are making the connection between different areas in Kazan. This will be the nature route which will connect very different regions. It will serve 1,200,000 people who live in Kazan. This is the project for them. When we started this project, we didn't know that biodiversity is huge there, and we actually discovered a lot of species, plants, flora and fauna around Kazanka River. This was something absolutely amazing. Right now, river is just not accessible from the coast. The project will be implemented fully in 10 years. We started from the first park. It's been created already. And in 10 years, 50% of citizens of Kazan will get a river which will be in the walking distance from their home. 1 million people in 10 minutes by car will be able to reach these parks. It's very important for us to assess the effect of this project for the health and environmental situation in the city. When it was being adopted, when we were taking the decision about the abandonment of development projects, housing development projects, actually houses for politicians were supposed to be built. But it was important for us to show that this project will improve the health of our population. We can reduce the mortality rate by 13% annually. That's a great number. And this project can reduce the number of heart diseases because people will be able to participate in marathons, trekking, and just bird watching. All of these activities will be accessible for our citizens. This project is linked to the city development, social development, because in Kazan there are very good technological companies and scientific institutions, and we got the grant from Trianon Dialogue, Russian and French project. So we got this money, and we are starting to develop environmental startups, which will be located around Kazanka River. We are uniting scientists and startups around this project. We had a strategy developed together with citizens, and our citizens helped with some routes. But I'll tell you more about the strategy. First of all, we are going to have new green and blue routes which will unite all the historical parts of the city. We are also making connections between water and land transport routes. People will be able to leave their cars in these hubs, transfer to bicycles or walk. River life, it's very important. In the beginning of the 20th century, it was possible to swim in this river. People were using boats a lot, and our goal is to bring life back to Kazanka River. We are creating 619 hectares of new preserved territories, lands, and we want to have some educational waterway routes. We want to tell people about this abundance, natural abundance, which is within the city. This educational program is one of the most important ones within this project. We are planning to create 12 parks in total, and I would like to mention more details about a couple of them. First park, Manzara. It will be officially opened for the public next year, and this is really very beautiful territory with a view to the Kremlin, and it was difficult to imagine that on this territory it's possible to have very rare species. So, for example, we have wild boars who live here, and we are thinking about the possibility to help these animals. We want to preserve them here in this park. But at the same time, we'll create additional recreation zones for the people. Second park, Russian and German Switzerland. This is something very interesting from the geographical point of view, with islands included in the territory of the park. Next park, we have some other interesting types of water life. And here we will create the special centers which will be responsible for education. People will be able to learn about flora and fauna. This system will be getting out of Kazanka. We'll have 6 hectares of absolutely wild natural territory. And we thought it's very important to have for the pandemic times, because people can go camping, you can go hiking with your family, not getting very far from the city. I will have special infrastructure here. It will be adapted to our new conditions in the pandemic era. After the strategy was adopted, we started the new development period. We are creating the touristic cluster, which is called Mirrors of Tatarstan, which is also connected to Kazanka River. And here we will develop some recreational spaces. Every person will be able to access this space very quickly, and they will be able to do gardening and so on, some activities which will help to get rid of high stress of urban living. And so here you see some photos, some examples. People who are getting better after illnesses will be sent here for recovering, and we are developing this project together with our investors. I'll be happy to hear your presentations as well.
Thank you, Katja. It's a very extensive program. I hope it will be implemented and fulfilled. And moreover, you have all the capabilities for that. It's wonderful that such a huge ecosystem, in some points even untouched, and is still in this almost in the center of a big industrial city. Let's move on. I'd like to pass the floor to Adrian Goitze. Starting from 1987, Adrian has been dealing with city transformations, and the West State company creates big, important complexes and landscape facilities all over the world, which positively influence those cities and also the community, which perceives these works as a model for others. So we know the Yongsan Park in Seoul and the Madrid embankment, which changed in many aspects this whole district. In Russia, everyone knows New Holland. It's a small but very meticulously planned and designed piece of St. Petersburg. Now I know that on the border of Saratov city, the architects from West 8 are building a new park, Gagarin Park, with some memorial flavor. It is very interesting. What do you think? Could it be that those huge green environments could be designed without involvement of people? Or what would be the role of population, and what would be the role of citizens, and how much space they leave for creative and breakthrough project of a professional architect bureau? And well, we all know very well that new landscapes, of course, improve the investment attractiveness. But what is the mechanism? Please, Adrian, could you share your insight with us?
Alec, thank you for the introduction and the invitation for this forum. I'm honored to share some examples of urban strategies. As a professor on Wageningen University Life Science, we do a lot of research on how to include ecosystems and vitalize ecosystems within cities. But this is, let's say, in some of the examples I would like to share, also a strategy for making people happier, give them a nicer city, but more or less, and that's a today reality as well, to catalyze urban development. So it also comes with mayors who want to develop cities and investments, and parks can be the starter of that. One of the visionary ideas of Mayor Gallardón in Madrid was to change about 20 kilometers of the river in downtown Madrid. On either side of the river was a highway, and to transform that into a park by having tunnels. And here you see the entire track of tunnels, also kissing the Royal Palace. And this was one of the biggest projects of infrastructure in Europe for many years. And we took that project to connect, on top of these tunnels, the ecosystem of the regional ecosystem of Madrid. So literally to stitch a valley and plain landscape and ecosystem into downtown Madrid. Mayor Gallardón's vision was, and here we see the result, to get every traffic disappeared in the tunnel, and on top of that, a beautiful system of parks and embankments. And as you see here, this is not like a simple operation. It is also, sometimes there's even tunnels woven on top of each other. And so from a point of infrastructure and landscape, this was very unique and transformative project with a lot of innovation in soil engineering, in water. And this brought a huge new park for the metropolis, which is very popular and very heavily used all day. So it made also, and that was the original vision, the real estate, the city developed. So this park catalyzed investments on a scale which was not easily seen before. So you see all type of new development along this track. Another type of project we are working now on for 10 years is a Yongsan Park in Seoul, Korea, where used to be a 300-hectare military base. It was originally a Japanese army base. It was taken over by the American army after the war. And surprisingly, the new strategy is that the army will disappear, will look for a new base, and the entire base will be converted into an urban park. So the base is larger than Central Park, New York, and it is literally downtown, and will be transformed into a national park. And for the Korean, it's very important to stitch and to repair, to heal the authentic topography, and establishing an eco-spine from the South Mountain towards the river in downtown Seoul. And so we work with many roundtables with professors, universities, ecological scientists, water management. We have a participation project with the local communities to establish this plan from sketch into reality using advanced technology and science. And that will result in a marvelous new park where people dream, meet, where all type of culture and ecosystem is in display. Okay, a similar project was the project to change an army base in the New York Harbor by Mayor Bloomberg in New York. So here we see Governor's Island, a Navy base. And his idea was to develop in the future the edges of the island by starting a catalyzing park. Our office won the project and about 15 years ago and started the construction and the rehabilitation of the island, which was very well related to arranging a new ecosystem. Important was to lift the island above flood levels, and before Sandy hit America, Sandy hit New York, the island was elevated about 7 to 9 feet up, and so trees can, in the future, can grow without being affected by salt water and high, rising sea levels. The island today is a city park where you see the introduction of the topography and the use of people, where ecosystems and also the enjoyment all work together and create a destination. We started the project also with a nursery of 10,000 of trees on the island, introducing new biotopes and flowers and soils. And also, and this is very, very interesting and successful, nurseries and herb gardens, urban agricultural, where children learn how to deal with nature. A very old project of us, which is still going on, is the Toronto Waterfront, where Mayor Miller had a vision to link downtown Toronto to the lake, and 3 blocks deep and 3 kilometers long waterfront should be giving back to the Canadian and making more of a democratic water's edge with ecosystem, underwater biotopes, with wave decks, boating, all type of pocket parks. And this transformation is amazing and causes a booming real estate industry taking advantage of the popularity of the new waterfront, which is by far one of America's most democratic waterfronts. We also there collaborate with all type of scientists and research institutions to invest money in new biotopes underwater. I close this short introduction with the 2 projects in Russia. The mayor of Moscow, we did collaborate with the municipal authorities and Strelka to research the option to get Strelskaya Boulevard be greened, and to make the boulevard with great sidewalks and shade and seasons, to have the real estate, the shops come back, and to make the street a happy street, which it wasn't for 20, 30 years. It was a traffic boulevard. And this project remarkably was very depending on scientific research of root ball condition in frozen condition of Moscow in salty wintertime. We engineered on scientific level a root ball condition to plant massive trees and to transform the street into a utopian boulevard with shade and insects, and where beautiful finishing, of course, invited people as a magnet, and new businesses immediately occurred on the sidewalks. The same type of approach was very, and you mentioned that, Alec, as, already, is in St. Petersburg, where an old arsenal from, this is a beautiful historic landmark island, downtown Petersburg transformed into a public park where Russian herb gardens, the dacha, was made on a scale you never saw before, where ecology was in display and children can play, families can meet, where you have a beautiful introvert orchard-like environments, combined with full year programming, festivals, events. And this is where the lonely heart and the lovers all meet, and people can't wait to participate. Thank you.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much. Wonderful speech. It's heroic efforts to bring back greenery to Tverskaya, and all Muscovites are really grateful to you. And of course, the new life in downtown of St. Petersburg is a great achievement and a really well demonstration of a new landscape and the development of the general socio-economic life right in the center of the second biggest city in Russia. We have one more discussion left for today's program, and I'd like to ask Ekaterina Samukhina. Now, we are speaking about Tsaritsino Park. Is a slightly different job and slightly different project. We'd like to discuss how to take a protected area, which has not only the status of a green resort, but also a monument of architecture, how to build up a full-fledged natural complex there, and how to safeguard it from the influence of urban environment in which it is sitting. And the huge amount of visitors who tries to get there, because it's a very attractive territory almost in the center of Moscow, and it has to live. Please, Ekaterina, tell us more about it. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I hope you can hear me well. I'd like to present my presentation, which describes just a small part of our huge job which we've done in Tsaritsino last year. And Tsaritsino, the Museum Tsaritsino, joined this project, and the actual Architect Bureau Practica, and Parkovaya Restauratsia Bureau also was part of this project. A few words. Tsaritsino territory is quite big for Moscow. It's a big green piece of environment, which has a lot of limitations. This is a natural protected territory and two sites of federal heritage, regional and federal cultural heritage objects. Since we are short of time, I will skip quickly the first slide. The global area, more than 400 hectares. On this territory, there are a few functions. A part of the park, this is the Museum of Decorative Art, archaeological objects, archaeological sites, and a big green place and recreation zone for the city. In Tsaritsino today, we show some analytics for these territories. In particular, last year it was fixed that more than 6 people visit this territory last year, which is very important. In our work, we recorded different problems of the development and different challenges. The main challenge which we faced is a big renovation district is close to this region, and a huge amount of population will live around, a lot of inhabitants and a lot of visitors. Museums should be ready for that from point of view of accepting all those people and the resilience of ecosystems. We prepared such development scenario. For the moment, the main load of Tsaritsino happens in its palace part, which we can see on the left, but at the same time, the potential of the territory is quite extensive. apart from the options of distributing loads, so recreational loads across the whole territory of Tsaritsyna, we didn't have any other options. Also, we should think about supporting and maintaining the natural territories. As a result of our huge work, we designed a master plan, and we highlighted a few new points. I'm not going to go very deeply in them because I wanted to talk more about biophilia and about love for nature. But not less important, as you rightly mentioned, is the fact that our territory is an object of cultural heritage. And our research in the nature of the park went along with the research of the cultural heritage. We segregated a few periods of the territory development. Also, important fact is to create historical and cultural basic plan, which was carried out not only with use of historical materials and different layouts and plans, but also from the point of view of fixing and stabilizing the existing situation and existing position. We know that all plans and all old materials, there could be mistakes. It's a human factor, and what trees and plants can tell us, what for a few measures, they couldn't tell us lies. So this huge comprehensive research gave us this wonderful master plan, which will be used by Tsaritsyna and which is required for such a big territory. This is a zoomed-in part of this plan around the palace, and you can see this comparison. This is a layout of 1810 and the existing situation, and within our work we finalized the borders of the landscape park, which is also important because in the certain Soviet times it was only 89 hectares concentrated just around the palace. And now let's move to our research. We carried out soil mapping, which is done very rarely in our parks, and we were lucky because initially, in the beginning of the noughties, a big expedition of the Archaeological Institute of Russian Academy of Science was working on the territory of the park. There were soil experts there in this team, and we have already had important factors about plants, which we used in planning of the layout of the territory. And we carried out soil mapping, as mentioned, and apart from the wood development, we also made the park research. Sorry, the organizers tell us that we have only 1 minute left. Sorry. Let's come to the point. Yes, I wanted just to, unfortunately, we don't have time to speak about plants and trees. Okay, summing up, despite Tsaritsyna has a lot of disturbances in the landscape, also due to those wrong process of restoration and rehabilitation, which has been done in 2005 and 2007 on the territory of our park, still we have a big potential there. And we describe all the regulations. We provide the plants and trees which can be used. We included it in our master plan, and I believe this work will help the park in the future to develop, and it would be really useful for such territories which could be really challengeable and disputable between population, environmental organization, and regulatory bodies. Yes, wonderful. I absolutely agree with you. This work can develop not the park itself, which would be natural, but could be a very good methodological basis for all designers of such territories, not only Moscow, but in other cities, big cities of Russia and Europe, and there are a lot of territories of that kind. In the end, in summing up, I'd like to say that today we saw absolutely different ways of urban development. If previously a classical city was developing only in connection some ideological messages and methods, the new post-industrial or communication-based city is developed in a different way. and first and foremost using those human-centric programs related to greenery, landscape development, public spaces, which is the most important goal of this development and the essence of modern cities. Thank you very much.